Welcome to Neural News Hub. This week was wild. You saw the headlines, right? A targeted assassination of a world leader, a massive new drone factory spinning up, and this deep diplomatic freeze between global superpowers. Now, on the surface, they seem totally unrelated. But what if I told you they're not? What if they're all pieces of the same giant puzzle? That's what we're calling the strategic nexus. So let's connect the dots and see how a strike in Tehran has everything to do with a factory in India and the front lines in Ukraine. Okay, so our story kicks off on February 28th with a single event that just completely redrew the map of the Middle East. A joint U.S.-Israeli airstrike takes out Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, right in Tehran. And make no mistake, this wasn't just the end of his decades-long rule. No. This was the explosive finale of a meticulous, incredibly high-stakes intelligence operation. And this timeline right here, it shows you this was anything but a snap decision. I mean, just look. Back in June of 2025, a previous strike was actually on the table but got vetoed by the U.S. What followed was months of intense CIA surveillance, tracking an increasingly paranoid and reclusive Khamenei. Then, bam, February 28th. The window of opportunity opens, and they take it, in broad daylight. And even then, it took a full day of chaos and official denials before Iranian state media finally had to confirm the news on March 1st. This was a long game, for sure, played with absolute razor-sharp precision. Now, if the military strike was the earthquake, the diplomatic fallout was the tsunami that followed. Almost instantly, the world's major powers just fractured, splitting right down the middle into two deeply opposed camps. And, believe me, there was absolutely no middle ground in sight. The reaction to the strike was, in many ways, just as significant as the strike itself. From the United States, the message was one of pure triumph. President Trump immediately framed the assassination as justice, and that's a sentiment we heard echoed by all of their allies. The American and Israeli position was crystal clear. This was not an act of war, but the elimination of a leader they held responsible for sponsoring terror and oppressing his own people for decades. End of story. But that view was definitely not shared over in Beijing or Moscow. The condemnation from them was swift, and it was absolute. China called it a flagrant violation of the UN Charter. Russian President Vladimir Putin, he flat out labeled it a cynical murder. So for them, this wasn't justice. It was a blatant, completely unacceptable act of aggression against a sovereign leader. So here's the key takeaway. You can see it perfectly laid out here. Just look at the language. Elimination versus murder. Justice has been served versus violation of international law. You see? This isn't just a simple disagreement over wording, it's a fundamental, head-on clash of worldviews. This event didn't create the divide, but man, it just ripped the veil right off, exposing these deep, irreconcilable fault lines of our new multipolar world. A world where it's not just one or two nations calling the shots anymore, and as we can see, these competing blocs can't even agree on the basic definitions of war and peace.
And this brings us right to the second pillar of our nexus, technology. Because this entire conflict, from the high-tech strike on Khamenei to all the simmering tensions across the region, is being defined by a new generation of autonomous weapons. We've been talking about the age of drone warfare coming for years. Well, it's not coming anymore. It's here.
And to really wrap your head around this new reality, you have to grasp the sheer scale. We're not talking about a few high-tech drones anymore. We're talking about mass production. Look at this number, 10,000. That is the planned annual output from just one new mega factory in Nagpur, India. Just let that sink in for a second. A single facility, backed by a massive 12,800 crore rupee investment, will be producing a small army's worth of drones every single year. This isn't just an upgrade, it's a global pivot to the industrialization of autonomous warfare, and it is happening way faster than anyone predicted. So how do all these pieces connect? I mean, we've got a regime change strike in Iran, this industrial drone boom in India, and a brutal, grinding war still happening in Eastern Europe. Well, the connection point is Ukraine, and it's creating a new and honestly a very unexpected axis of global defense.
Just look at this. On one side, you have the brutal reality of Russia's war in Ukraine. These constant, relentless attacks, like the one in Kharkiv that killed 11 people, have turned the country into the world's most advanced laboratory for anti-drone warfare. They had to innovate or they would be destroyed. It was that simple. Now, here's where it all links up. The United States is taking that hard-won knowledge, the jamming systems, the interceptor tech, the detection networks, and they are exporting it directly to their allies in the Middle East. This is the strategic nexus in action. Battlefield lessons from Ukraine are being used to build a defensive shield in the Gulf, connecting two totally separate conflicts against a shared technological threat.
So, the world is realigning itself in real time, all connected by these invisible threads of technology and power. A drone built in India, using lessons learned in Ukraine, could be the key to stability, or the spark for the next conflict in the Middle East. It leaves us with a pretty sobering question, right? In this new age of interconnected warfare, is anyone truly safe? If you want to keep exploring these crucial connections, please hit the like and subscribe button for more such updates and informative videos.